The knock came at 3 a.m. Sharp and heavy, like someone hitting the door with the bottom of a boot. I had been sitting in my old wooden chair by the open window, listening to the soft push of the ocean waves. Night air moved through the villa, warm and salty, and the only light came from the small lamp beside me. I thought it was another fisherman from the beach, asking for help. But the knock came again, louder, faster, impatient. I stood slowly, stretched my back, and walked to the door without rushing. When I opened it, the sight before me did not surprise me, but it did sadden me. My son-in-law stood there with 3 men behind him. His name was Harris, and he wore the same proud look he always carried, like he owned everything his eyes touched. He smelled of cheap cologne and bad choices. His jacket was half open, and he held a half smile that never reached his eyes. Behind him were the friends he always traveled with. Bruno, tall and wide, filling almost the whole doorway with his shoulders. Kelvin, thin but loud, grinning at nothing, as if the night was a joke only he understood. And Pharaoh, the quiet one, standing at the back with a blank face, watching everything without blinking. Harris pushed the door wider without waiting for me to move. "Old man," he said, stepping inside as if it was already his home. "This is my villa now. You have 1 hour to move out." Kelvin laughed loudly and slapped Bruno's arm. "Make it 30 minutes, he said. "I'm tired. We came to relax." The villa, my late wife's favorite place in the world, suddenly felt smaller with them inside. They smelled of the city, sweat, alcohol, cheap smoke. They walked in with dirty shoes, stepping on rugs my wife chose with such care many years ago. Bruno ran his hand along the wall and whistled. "Nice place," he said. "Better than that tiny flat Harris rents." "Not anymore," Kelvin added. "It's ours." I watched them for a moment. Their voices bounced around the quiet rooms. The sound was wrong, sharp, disrespectful, but I did not raise my voice. I did not ask them to leave. I only walked to the table, lifted my glass, and took a slow sip of water. The glass was cool in my hand. The night air was soft against my face. Then I looked at Harris, who was now examining the shelf where I kept a few old books. "Come in," I said simply, as if they were polite visitors. Harris frowned at my calmness. He wanted fear, or anger, or shouting, but he got none of that. "You're not hearing me," he said. "This place is mine now." I nodded gently, as if his words were not new to me at all. The men spread out through the living room, touching things that did not belong to them, talking loudly, laughing, claiming space that was not theirs. I stood by the table, quiet and steady, letting them believe they were in control. And through it all, I kept thinking about what I had done yesterday. The day before the knock on my door had been quiet, almost too quiet. The ocean was calm, the sky clear, and the villa stood in its usual peaceful silence. I woke early that morning, long before the sun climbed over the water. I boiled water for tea and sat on the balcony, watching the soft light spread across the waves. Anyone who saw me would think I was just another old man enjoying a slow morning, but my mind was busy. For months, I had felt something changing around me. Harris had been growing bolder, asking for money more often, speaking to me with less respect each time. He had always believed he could take advantage of me because I rarely argued. I let many things pass, not because I was weak, but because I valued peace. Still, I knew one day he would push too far, and deep inside, I had already prepared myself for that moment. That morning, I took out a small notebook from a drawer near my bed. It held numbers, dates, and names written in my old handwriting. I ran my fingers across a few pages, reading notes I had made long before Harris entered my daughter's life. I made 2 phone calls, short, quiet calls that did not need long explanations. The people on the other end understood me quickly and answered in calm, simple words. I did not raise my voice. I only confirmed details. Later in the day, a visitor arrived. He wore a plain shirt and carried nothing in his hands. He parked far from the villa, so no one would see his car. He walked in through the back path where the trees grew thick and the shadows hid him well. When he entered the house, we greeted each other with a nod, like two people who had worked together long ago. He did not stay long. We spoke in low tones, going through a few old papers and checking certain items around the villa. When he left, he went the same way. He came quiet and unseen. In the afternoon, I walked to the end of the beach road and stopped by the small gate of Mrs. Durant, my neighbor. She was an older woman with a sharp mind and eyes that noticed everything. She invited me to sit on the bench outside her porch. We talked about the weather first, then about small things, but she kept watching me. She sensed something was troubling me. "You look too calm today," she said. "That usually means something big is coming." I smiled. She had known me for many years and understood my habits better than most people. I didn't tell her everything, but I told her enough for her to understand that I was preparing for something important. She didn't ask too many questions. She only patted my hand and told me to stay strong. As the sun began to set, I returned to the villa. I checked the doors, the drawers, the old files, and the rooms one last time. Everything was in its place. Everything that needed to be done was done. When night finally covered the shore, I stood at the balcony again, listening to the waves. I felt no fear, no worry, only a quiet readiness for whatever was coming. The night inside the villa felt different from the peaceful morning I had lived just a day before. The soft waves outside were still the same, but the voices filling my home were not. Harris and his friends moved around like they had already won something. Their footsteps were loud, their talk careless, and their laughter sharp enough to scratch the quiet walls. Harris stood in the middle of the living room, pointing at places as if he were giving orders at a construction site. "I want this shelf gone," he said. "And that old chair too. Looks ancient." Kelvin walked behind him, running his hand across my books. "These look boring," he said. "We should toss them out." Bruno didn't bother looking at the books. He headed straight for the hallway and tried opening a door that stayed locked. He grabbed the handle and pulled hard, twisting with his full strength. The door didn't move. "What's with this?" he said. "Why is this one locked?" "It's my house," I replied calmly. "Some rooms stay closed." Bruno didn't like the answer. He grunted and pulled again, harder this time. But the lock didn't even shake. His face grew red with irritation. Faro, the quiet one, leaned against the wall near the window. He watched everything with slow, focused eyes. He didn't laugh like Kelvin or show anger like Bruno. He just studied me, as if trying to understand why I wasn't panicking. Harris turned toward me with a crooked grin. "You're too calm for someone about to lose everything," he said. "Shouldn't you be packing your things?" I lifted my cup and took another sip of water. "There's no rush," I said. "You should relax." Kelvin laughed at my answer, but something in Harris's eyes flickered. He didn't say anything for a long moment. He only shifted his weight and looked around the villa again, like he was seeing something he missed earlier. They continued walking through the house. Kelvin opened drawers without permission, tossing aside small items that meant nothing to him but held years of memory for me. Bruno checked the kitchen, opening cupboards and commenting on things he didn't understand. Faro followed behind them. Still silent, I watched them quietly, taking note of how each man behaved. Harris was impatient. Kelvin was careless. Bruno was angry. Faro was observant. Their weaknesses showed clearly, and they didn't even know it. Harris grabbed a stack of papers from the table. "These are old," he said. "Probably useless. I'll throw them away." "They aren't useless," I replied. He smirked and tossed them back on the table. "Well, they won't matter tomorrow." The room filled with their noise again. But inside me, everything was calm. My wife loved this villa, and I had protected it for years. I knew its strengths, its history, and all the work I put into it long before Harris ever imagined stepping inside. The men moved around like they controlled everything, but nothing they did changed the simple truth. They understood nothing about the place they were trying to claim, and even less about the man standing quietly in front of them. Harris's confidence grew as he walked deeper into the villa. He moved like someone who believed he had already won, touching the walls, opening drawers, and giving orders that no one asked him for. His friends followed his lead, spreading out like they were inspecting a place they planned to own. "Give me every key you have," Harris said suddenly. "All of them. I don't want any surprises later." I looked at him from my chair near the dining table. The lamp beside me cast a warm circle of light over the room. Outside, the ocean rolled calmly, as if the world had not changed. "You don't need my keys," I said in a steady voice. "This villa has its own rules." Kelvin laughed. "What rules? It's just a house. And it's ours now." Bruno stepped beside Harris, folding his arms. "Give him the keys, old man. No more talking." I reached into my pocket and placed a single small key on the table. They all leaned closer, expecting something dramatic, but it was only the key to a drawer. Nothing more. Harris frowned. "That's it?" he asked. "That's the one you asked about last month," I said. "You insisted it opened something important." Kelvin snorted. "He's playing tricks." Harris shook his head. "No, he's hiding something." He grabbed the key and tossed it at Kelvin. "Check everything again." Kelvin moved through the room with more energy than before, opening drawers and cabinets like a child searching for hidden sweets. Bruno headed straight back to the locked door, pulling the handle again with his heavy hands. When it refused to move, frustration filled his face. "Why is this room locked?" Bruno demanded. "It's a room with memories," I replied, "and memories need care." Pharaoh stepped closer to me, still quiet. His eyes watched my face with slow focus. "You're not worried?" he said softly. "No," I answered. "Worry never built anything." Harris turned sharply. "You think this place means something special to you? You think that will stop us?" "No." I looked around the villa, at the paintings my wife chose, the shelves we built, the stones she picked from the beach and placed by the window. "This villa means more than you know," I said. "It was not just built, it was earned." Harris opened his mouth to talk, but I continued before he could speak. "This place did not fall into our hands. Every wall here came from years of work. Every part was planned carefully. You don't take something like that just because you think you can." Kelvin paused from his searching. Bruno stopped tugging at the locked door. Even Harris looked unsure for a moment. I stood up slowly, letting the chair move back without sound. "You want to claim this villa," I said. "Then you should at least understand what it really is." The room grew quieter. Their eyes followed me as I stepped toward the shelf near the window. "I prepared something yesterday," I said calmly. "Something I want to show you now." I walked forward with steady steps, ready to reveal the first piece of the truth. The villa was quiet again, except for the low sound of the ocean rolling against the shore. Harris and his friends stood nervously, unsure of what was coming. The energy in the room had shifted. What they had thought would be an easy night of taking over the house had slowly turned into confusion. Their confidence was fading, replaced with hesitation. I moved to the sideboard and picked up a small wooden box I had prepared the day before. It was simple, plain, and heavy. I set it on the table and opened it slowly. Inside were papers, photographs, and old contracts. Not many people would understand them, but I did. They told the story of the villa, its ownership, and the work that had gone into it over decades. Every signature, every note, every calculation was proof that this villa was not just a building, it was a legacy. Harris leaned forward, squinting at the papers. "What is this?" he asked, his voice rising. "These are the records," I said. "Everything about this villa. Everything that proves it cannot be claimed by someone who does not respect its history." Kelvin tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. "These are old papers. They don't mean anything." "They mean everything," I said, calm and steady. "I prepared this yesterday because I knew someone like you might try to take what doesn't belong to them. You wanted the villa, but you did not understand it. You do not understand the care, the time, or the heart behind it. And that is why you cannot simply take it." Bruno glanced at the locked door again, now realizing the purpose of it. Faro's eyes never left me. He understood more than the others. They all did, in their own way. Harris tried to grab a sheet from the box, but I held it lightly, my fingers firm. "No. You cannot have these yet. You need to see why they exist, and why respect is required before possession." For the first time that night, the men did not argue. They watched as I went through the papers, explaining briefly the planning, the careful preparation, and the history. Every small detail, every choice made in the villa, had been documented. They could see the effort, the love, and the discipline. Harris's face turned red, not with anger, but with embarrassment. He realized that no shouting, no pushing, and no pretending would give him what he wanted. Kelvin and Bruno exchanged glances, finally understanding that this place was more than a house. Faro just nodded silently, as if he had expected it all along. I closed the box gently and set it back on the table. "This villa was built with care, not force," I said, "and that is why it remains mine. Not because I am older, not because I am stronger, but because I respect it more than anyone who comes demanding it." Harris swallowed hard and took a step back. He looked at his friends, and for the first time, the arrogance and pride they carried vanished. They had learned, in the quietest way possible, that control cannot be claimed by threat or force. Respect is what holds real power. I returned to my chair, poured myself a cup of tea, and sat down. The ocean's calm continued outside, reflecting the peace I had maintained all along. The villa was quiet, safe, and intact. And for the first time that night, the intruders understood that the life they had tried to steal could never belong to them. The villa remained mine. The night passed peacefully. The waves outside whispered as if agreeing with the truth. Some things are earned, some are protected, and some, like this villa, cannot be taken by anyone who does not deserve them. The house, the ocean, and I, all three, were finally at peace again. Thanks for watching. Please tell us in the comments section where you are watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting stories.